Hi, I'm Dan and welcome to Airbrush Garage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming back. Today, I'm going to be doing a video based on feedback I'm getting from you guys, the viewers, on how to further troubleshoot your airbrush. Now, I have a video on how to troubleshoot your airbrush, and I know it's helped a lot of people, and I'll pop a link for that one up above, but this is going a little bit beyond that because there's people out there still having problems. And what I thought would be a good idea is if we go through the mechanics and show you graphically how the airbrush works. We'll go over to the computer and take a look at some schematics. And I really think once you understand how the airbrush works, you'll be able to identify and troubleshoot your problem. So if that's something you're interested in, please stick around. Thumbs up will be great. Hit that bell so you get future notifications. Couple comments, good or bad, just really helps build a YouTube algorithm and helps this channel grow. Don't forget to check out all my Amazon affiliate links for all the products I use in this video and all my other videos. And I would like to say I'm kind of proud that we hit over 4,000 subscribers last week. And it's all due to you guys, and I really appreciate it. So we're 4,000 and growing, and we just want to keep getting bigger. So with that, let's get started. All right, before we go and take a look at how the airbrush works, just want to touch upon some of the questions I've been getting lately. Probably the number one question is that I push down for air, and even before I pull back for paint, I'm getting paint come out of my gun. Another one would be I push down and pull back. I push down for air, I pull back for paint, and nothing happens. I get air and no paint. I also got a question or a few questions on, well, I'm getting paint to come out of my gun, but it's spraying at an angle or not straight where I want it to go. And the last one is that I push down, I have 25, 30 PSI going to my airbrush. I push down for air and I get nothing. No air, no paint. So let's take a look at all four of those questions. So the first one, when you push down for air and you don't pull back for paint, but you're getting paint coming out of your airbrush, it is a nozzle problem. Now, again, I have a video that really breaks the nozzle down and stuff like that. So I'm not going to get too deep into this because I'd rather explain it to you over on a computer, but I will tell you that if you're getting paint coming out of your airbrush without pulling back on the trigger for paint, you have a problem going on between your needle and your nozzle. Number two, if you push down for air and pull back for paint and get nothing but air, the paint is not getting out to the needle. So there is either a clog somewhere or, again, the nozzle. And most of the times the problem is within the nozzle or a problem within the nozzle where there's paint getting into the nozzle or maybe being clogged in the nozzle. Maybe the paint is too thick. That could be one of the reasons as well. The third one, paint not coming out of my gun straight. Pretty simple. You have a bent needle. Now, it's really hard to see on a needle, and you're not going to be able to see this or see, that needle, but take a look at the tip of your needle. Now, this is a 0.35 and a 0.3. So not the smallest needle in the world, but the tip of the needle is very small. And you may not be able to see the bend in the needle, especially if you need readers like me. Put your readers on, take a close look at it, and you'll see that the tip of that is bent. The main cause for having that to bend, and I've gotten away from it a lot, is cleaning the needle off with your fingers, okay? That takes, years of practice, and I can do it without bending my needle. But a lot of times that can bend your needle, or somebody gets too close to their substrate, they're trying to get a fine line, and they bump the substrate and they bend the needle. So if your paint is coming out and it's not spraying straight, that is the main cause. Now, I already did have in one of my brushes, there is, at least in my nozzle cap or in these Iwatas, there's 3 air holes within the air nozzle cap. I had one of those holes clog. Therefore, it was only pushing air through the 3 holes in the cap and therefore making the paint come out of the gun at an angle. So that is number 2. But number 1 you want to check for is that bent needle. And then the fourth one and last one is press down, no air, no paint. Believe it or not, guys, this has happened to me, especially brushes with a MAC valve. The MAC valve is totally closed off and it's preventing the air from coming out. And I'm wondering, why am I getting no air? I had the MAC valve closed. The other thing is too, I have a 4 airbrush holder where it has air valves right on the unit. I had shut the air off previously to do something, went to spray, couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting air. Just took me a few seconds to realize I had the air off. Now, we'll be looking at the air valve or the air valve body on a computer here in a second, but it's very rare that that would seize up. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's rare that it would seize up. So with that, let's go to the computer and let's take a look at how these things work. All right, we're going to start with a gravity feed. We're going to be going over both of them though today. I'm going to touch upon the gravity feed and show you the siphon feed as well. But there's not a lot to this when you look at it this way. Basically, your air's coming up. Okay, you want to be pushing approximately 25 psi. That's just my opinion. That's about what I spray at normally. And the air is going to be coming up through your air valve right here, okay, from your hose through your air valve and into the airbrush. The air then is going to flow around the nozzle, not into the nozzle. A lot of people think that it's flowing into the nozzle. It's not. It's flowing around the nozzle. On a gravity feed gun, the paint is going to, gravity is going to take it, it's going to pull it down into the chamber, and it's going to go into the nozzle. And then it's going to go out onto the needle. When you pull that needle back, it's going to let paint out onto the needle, and the air flowing over the nozzle is going to push the paint onto your substrate. This is a better look at the inside of the airbrush. And here where you can see the air valve. Go a little close up on it. You can see the air valve. Okay, so your trigger, when you depress it down, pushes down on a shaft that pushes a spring that opens up the air valve, releasing air into your gun. The air then travels up into the body of the gun, and again, around your nozzle, where the paint is being dropped into the chamber and into through the nozzle. So the air and the paint don't mix until it's out here on the tip of the nozzle. One of the reasons I discussed before in a video is that somebody wasn't getting paint, or maybe they were getting paint without pulling back. And a lot of times, or sometimes, the needle is not pushed all the way forward into the nozzle. If it's not pushed, you see what happens is when the needle is pushed all the way forward into the nozzle, it seals off the nozzle. That's why it's important, you hear people say, well, maybe your nozzle's cracked. Because if your nozzle is cracked, sometimes people push the needle into the nozzle too hard, and over time it creates a crack. Well, if there's a little crack there, it's going to be letting air in, and then that needle, once it hits the nozzle fully engaged, does not seal off the paint. So there's always paint coming out onto the needle, air is passing by it and pushing paint onto your substrate without you having to pull back on a trigger. This right here, and it's been done before, as a matter of fact, I forget what video it was on, but it was one of the bonehead things that I've done that I shared with everybody is, I cleaned my airbrush and I put the needle back and I didn't push it all the way forward. And I, happened to have this tightened or not tightened, I'm sorry. And you're pulling back on a trigger and nothing's happening, because without that needle chuck being tight around the needle, you're pulling back on the trigger and it's just sliding across the needle. It's not pulling the needle back anywhere. So this one works a little differently. The same concept of the air coming up into the body, and it's going to go through the air nozzle or little holes in the air nozzle, and the air represented by the purple is going to flow over the needle nozzle. Okay, but in this case, it has to rely on the low pressure caused at the tip right here to draw the fluid up into the nozzle. Now again, once your needle is pressed back, it lets paint out onto the needle, in which the air flowing across the nozzle and the needle blows paint onto your surface. So with that said, and after taking a look at how the airbrush works now, basically most problems can be pinpointed to the nozzle. Okay, because again, if you have air flowing up through your brush and out to the tip of your needle, and you have paint that is unobstructed going down into your needle nozzle and out to the tip of your needle, it has to spray paint, okay? Because if you're getting paint out there and you're getting air out there, there's really not much to it besides air flowing up over the nozzle, paint flowing down into the nozzle, pulling back on the needle to allow paint out onto the needle, and air to blow it. So whether it's gravity feed or siphon feed, one thing I can say on the siphon fed guns and on the gravity feed too, if you're using a cap like this, you want to make sure your air hole is opened. That could be another cause for something not spraying paint, especially on the siphon feed guns. You know, I used to have a lot of trouble. You know, might have shook my brush around a little bit, didn't realize the air hole got clogged with paint, wasn't spraying paint, couldn't figure out why. But I'll tell you what, great little tool before I go here, needle reamer. Basically, I use this to go into my little holes that are inside that air nozzle. There should be, 3 holes depending on what brush you have, maybe, 4 holes. Again, there's a lot of airbrushes out there, but this tool right here can get in to clean those out. It can clean your nozzle out, even the smallest little nozzles. This is the tool you're going to need. I used to try to do it with, paper towels by, twisting them up really tight, and I still do that to get some paint out of there. So this tool right here, if your nozzle is clogged, this is the tool that's going to do it for you. Very, very valuable tool. Didn't discover this one for quite some time after I started airbrushing, but this one will really help you out. So again, guys, take a look at that nozzle and any air holes that you have going around that nozzle. Again, paint flow, air has to work. So with that, hope you got something from this video. Please leave me some comments down below if you're still having problems. I'll see what I can do to help. Again, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, couple comments, check out those links. Really appreciate going over 4,000 last video. Let's keep it going. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.